Hello, I'm Corey Ruttercup with the Burnaby Board of Trade, and I'm joined today by Gulam Firdos, who's running in the by-election to join Burnaby City Council. As a Chamber of Commerce in Burnaby, we work to support our local businesses and employers. We foster a competitive, sustainable, and successful community, and our mission really is to serve as a catalyst for economic growth, a convener of business and community leaders, and a champion for the interests of local business. And that's why in the lead up to the municipal election later this month, we've asked all the candidates to join us for these short videos to share a little bit about why they're running. So you have a chance to learn a bit more about them, and you have a chance to get a little bit more knowledge for your options on this election. So let's get started. Hi, Gulam, thanks for joining us. To start off, would you like to take a few minutes to share a little bit about yourself, your background and experience, and why you're running for Burnaby City Council this time?
Okay. The thing is that in order to introduce myself, I would like to say that actually I am currently the board member for the Burnaby City Council and have been living in Burnaby for almost 20 years. I am a professional city planner for 35 years, and I started my activity as a city planner in Canada in initial planning and development in Whitehorse, Yukon, and there I have developed short and long-term policy plans for Northern BC and the Peel region. As a housing affordability expert for 15 years with the United Nations, I have been a housing affordability expert in the United Nations for 15 years, and there I have developed training modules for municipalities on sustainable economic and development policies. As a professional planner, I am the only candidate who is fully conversant with the city council policies and most suitable for the position of city councillor. Burnaby Board of Trade is an economic partner of the city. Therefore, professional planners are deemed to play a greater role in developing adaptive council policies. My inclusion in the council will greatly enhance policies on issues like COVID-19 responsiveness, transportation planning, tax management planning, environmental sustainability, housing, and diversity. So one of the main reasons that I'm running for the planning for this position is because generally it's always the professionals who are working behind the city council policies. Whenever the city council takes any decision, things like that, it has to come from the actual brain of the policymakers, of the technicians who are actually working in the city. So I have worked for 35 years with all the city councils, a lot of city councils all around the world, and especially in Canada for about 20 years. And also presently I am the Board of Variance member for the City Council. So I am confident that actually the City Council planning position should be given to professionals who work behind the scenes. So they should come forward, and this I have been advocating all around the world. And this has got a good response also regarding this. So that's my objective of coming to the city council position. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Thanks for sharing that. So I wanted to spend a little bit of time getting your thoughts on some specific priority areas for the Board of Trade and our members and the local business community. And you touched on a few of them in your opening comments there around transportation and tax and planning. So maybe looking at planning. Burnaby continues to undergo kind of major development as the city matures and grows. Last year, in the midst of the pandemic, we had near record-breaking building permits issued. There seems to be no slowdown there. What are your thoughts on the development of the city thus far, and how it should continue to grow and mature and expand going forward?
Okay, thank you very much for the question. I was expecting this type of discussion with you. And really, if we start with transportation, I would like to say that since we have, if you can go chronologically, because that's what I saw in this thing. So transportation, we are actually developing a transportation plan for a long term, 30 years. And that is what will actually change the face of the city. So that is an important thing, because this will also economically enhance the capability of the Burnaby Board of Trade, because transportation has got economic impacts on all other aspects. So transportation planning actually goes a long way with whatever is there on the plate. So actually we are still on the process of developing that transportation plan, and I hope that within a short period, maybe by next year, we will be having this 30 years, or maybe a long-term plan, 50 years transportation plan in the city of Burnaby.
So,
That will actually enhance the economic development of Burnaby Board of Trade and also the city of Burnaby.
no problem. And we can certainly start with transportation if you like. That is usually the number one of the number one issues that we hear from our members is moving not only people, customers and employees around, but goods and services too. And I think that's often a part that is missed, is that it's not always easy to get a plumber or a drywaller or a courier onto transit. That doesn't quite work as well. So goods and services have to move around the city as well. Do you have any thoughts? So the city is doing a transportation plan, as you mentioned, and we have 22 recommendations to the city as part of that plan on things that can be done to improve transportation, from building more north-south roads, protecting parking hubs in business districts, improving rider amenities on transit to make it more appealing. Do you have any specific thoughts on what you'd like to see the future of transportation in Burnaby look like?
Yeah, actually we have different aspects where the transportation plan goes forward with. So actually, if I want to discuss every bit of the transportation planning, then it will take days and nights.
Yeah.
You know. So that's why I just gave you a general outline of how the transportation. We have all the 4 quadrants over here, so that should connect with the short-term planning, because all the loopholes, all the roads and all the loopholes should actually connect with the city of Burnaby in a way that the transportation becomes easier. Especially we have the bus transport, we have the train TransLink, and any other transport, like we have the vehicles which also keeps moving. So that's why we need to have a very well connected and well fabricated transportation that should actually work with transportation also has got so many things with the trade and business. So that is very important. That's why we need to have a well-developed transportation plan that will actually work for the city of Burnaby. So, and the second, regarding the development plan, we have developments coming up. So this thing is that, Burnaby is in the middle of Vancouver and Surrey and Coquitlam and New West. So it is actually a center hub. So all the activities that go through this go from here, from Vancouver to this place, Burnaby to Coquitlam or Surrey. Actually, it has to go through the city of Burnaby. So Burnaby needs to have a much more well-connected development plan where housing should be one of the most important issues, and also utility service facilities and all other necessary living facilities, because we are going to give people the services, and in return we are going to ask for taxation. So if the people give a lot of tax and they don't give the service that is required, so that's why that's where we have a problem. That's why we need to actually have a well-developed plan, especially the land use development plan, because we have shortage of land. So the land use should be in a way that it has got much more meaning, much more development in all sectors. So that's why development is so important. We have housing. Actually, housing comes next. So I will come to housing after. Yeah. So the thing is that we have 4 quadrants. One of the quadrant is actually lagging in development, not lagging in development, because that is the quadrant where we are actually trying to plan, like in the Bainbridge, north of Bainbridge. So that is the area where we are really trying to come forward with a much developed plan, because well, the problem is if we plan an area, if we use a land and plan an area and have a development, it's very difficult to really redevelop that area because it becomes so expensive. And also, there are so many factors. You cannot, change those roads and infrastructures and things like that. Even if you change, it becomes much more difficult. So that's why the development plan where new areas are supposed to be developed, those are the areas where we need a real good plan to develop. So the policy for the city council has to be in a way that it really reflects the development, future development, like long term, short term. So we have two aspects. One is the short term, where we immediately try to solve the problem like the housing, affordability and all those things. And then we have the long term, where we will look at the the development of people, the future people and things like that, which will actually reflect the long-term development. So that is regarding the housing. When we develop the plans, we also keep in mind to see how the taxation affects the people, because tax is an important. We are taking tax, and there are always some kind of grudging that they pay a lot of tax and then don't get the service. So that it is very important that the policy should actually reflect what we demand as taxes. So if the tax is not in par with the development, it becomes a very difficult issue. So in regards to taxation, it's very important that the development should keep pace with the taxation, and the taxation should be charged in a way that it actually that people are not unhappy with the tax, and they are getting the services and facilities, and that's what it comes with, because this has got an economic impact with the Board of Trade. Because if they don't get enough business, if the laborers are unable to come and do their work and things like that, so that becomes, so if they can't come, if there is no income generation, the taxation, and we put a lot of tax on them, it becomes really a difficult issue. So that should be kept in mind. It should be organized in such a way, the policy should be in such a way that actually it reflects what we are trying to do and how much the tax should be taken from them. Regarding the climate, I think we already have a very big issue regarding the TMX. So there are two thinkings. One, that we should not have the TMX pipeline. The others say that we should have a TMX pipeline. So in my view, the TMX is something that should be really discussed in a way that it does not affect anybody. It does not actually go against the climate, and also we have the income generation which is required from the TMX. So in that case, I would like to keep myself neutral. I don't want to go against or for, but I think we should develop a way where the TMX actually has an impact and gives us a lot of credibility for the city. So that is important. And crime is this is one of the greatest problem we have right now in Burnaby. And we have the crime. I don't know how the crime rate is actually increasing, but I understand that the crime rate should be dealt with in a way that actually there should be a lot of awareness among the young generation who are getting involved in criminal activities. And also at the same time, we should actually keep an awareness for the parents who are responsible for the children, because if they come together, we can have a regular meeting. Because if I really win, I'm going to organize meetings on a regular basis with the parents and children to make them aware that how to actually reduce the crime, how to balance the crime, how to reduce the drug abuse and things like that. So these are some of the things I am thinking. and I understand that these are some of the policies that are supposed to be developed by the council, and there are we should be more proactive. We should have more thinking on the council, so that in future there is something good which happens.
No, well, thanks for that. I had shared kind of the priority areas that we were interested in discussing, and you kind of touched on most of them there. So I don't have many more questions. I do have maybe one wrap up one as we have time for before we wrap up here. Just because with your background in planning, you mentioned land use planning during your comments here. One of the things that we're concerned around is the erosion and loss of industrial land across the region as they're converted into other uses. By some estimates, we'll be out of new industrial land capacity in just a few years. What are your thoughts around protecting and preserving kind of industrial land, the industrial land base we have now, and how do we manage as the city grows and maybe light industrial areas get turned over into residential as part of the plan? How do we make sure that we keep a home for those businesses in Burnaby and we don't force them to move to further afield jurisdictions?
Yeah, this is a very interesting issue, and this is also a very important issue. Actually, the industrial sector in Burnaby, this was the land use came into industrial sector long time back. It is not something that was done now. So every time, as a planner, every year or every 5 years, they change the land use plan. They always upgrade the land use plan, because you never step into the same river twice. So it's always a changing issue. So that is important, and also it is important that the naturality of the city should be kept in mind. I understand that there is a lot of activities regarding the development of housing sector and things like that, where the industrial land is being replaced. So, but to me, I think the land use planning has to be well thought and well developed in a way that it really does not affect the industry and the residential or commercial activities. But there has to be a balance between it. So it's not something that we can get rid of the industry and put all the commercial and residential activities into one place, which is going to be wrong. We normally, when we plan for a city, we generally have the industrial area where we have a buffer, and then we have the commercial and residential area. So the buffer will serve as a protection for the industry. We cannot get rid of the industry, because if the industry goes far away, somewhere in Kamloops or other places, then there is going to be a transportation issue for the laborers. For the economic development will be hindered in a way. So we really cannot get rid of the industry. The industry has to be there. The residential area also has to be there. So it has to be planned in such a way that both can coexist, and there is not much issue in it. But we have actually, as a planner, I have witnessed this kind of issues in other developing countries, where they have so much to think about. They have these buffer zones, they have other ways of doing things, so which actually does not, actually it affects in a way, but it minimizes a lot of things, so that you don't have that much of a problem. So the city council, actually, we should be in a position, the councillors should be in a position to really think about the minimal effect of transportation, of housing along with the industry, which I think is very important, because it's something, if something goes out of hand, suppose you just get rid of the industrial area and you put forward with all the commercial and residential area, then that's going to be a problem. As I told you, if we put the industry far away, it's going to affect everybody. So there has to be balanced development between this, and therefore the land use has to be thought in a way. Now we have this plan for Burnaby, which is 1965, as you know. So there has not been any change because we take small bits and pieces from the plan and then we develop that. But I understand that we should have an integrated development plan, which actually gives a long-term perspective of what actually we are looking at, what actually we should do, and things like that, which I think the councillors should actually think about it.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Gulam, for coming and sharing your thoughts and those comments with us and helping us to put together this video series. So we encourage all of you watching to look at all the videos we'll be doing with all the candidates who we've invited everyone to do these videos with us, so you have more information about what your choice looks like for the election this month for Burnaby City Council. So thank you very much for joining us.